Hello everybody and welcome back to the Collegiate Deadlock Twitch channel. I'm your host Spafflez, joined by the lovely Orbital. Orbital, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Excited to be back. It's been a very long time since I've been on the college deadlock scene, but I've been around in the deadlock area for a while, and I'm glad to be back here, closing out the regular season.
All right, and just like you said, we're closing out the regular season this week. We've got TAMU versus U of T. So this will be a matchup that's going to really determine who gets third place, who gets fourth place in this group. It's going to be pretty close. Both of these teams will progress over into the first round of playoffs. They don't need to participate in our last chance qualifiers. So this is mostly just determining the seeding in which they do. So on the hand of University of Toronto, we've got Styler, Dream Lion, Misclicked, Big Fat B, Johnny, and Fractal. Versus from Texas, they got Gigabyte, Macro Jesus, Pissed, Plague, Janali, and Encore.
Yep, and reiterating, this is the Texas A&M, the Maroon squad to come out here. They are in Group 1. That's where we're looking right now. This is the group that had NU, GMU, UNL, obviously these two, and then CSU as the entire core here. And as you said, all these teams have already qualified in, but I do feel like seeding matters a lot more than I think some people give it a lot of credit for. Placing a little bit higher, at a third place position does allow you a little bit more preferential treatment in terms of the following matches. So I think it's very important that they do take it seriously, even though it is a best of 2. It can go 1-1, it can go 0-2 or 2-0, to make sure to kind of give it your all here, even if it means, maybe only going up one place instead of, qualifying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And the way that the current scoring sits, U of T is sitting marginally ahead of TAMU. So TAMU will need to win both of the matches tonight to give themselves the opportunity there to overtake U of T in their following match.
Yep. It'll take a little bit more for them to push a little bit onwards, and I am very curious for TAMU. They're a squad that sits quite highly on their ranked ladders. They have been, known to be prone to using a lot of the newer heroes as well. I think Rem was a big one.
Yep.
I thought was really fun to watch for. Rem obviously having some of the more fundamental movements around the map. I've heard inklings of some Doorman in there as well, but that one's left up to be decided. I think that one's more just general flex between some of the players that want to get a little bit crazy with it. But I am very curious to see what the compositions are going to be specifically for this opening match, as well as some of the bans to come on out.
Yeah, and also notably, right, we had that big deadlock patch about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago, and TAMU, they didn't participate last week in the Deadlock Collegiate. They had to reschedule their match, so they're doing 2 matches this weekend. So we really have not seen what this roster is able to do on the new patch, and like you said, they're always using up those new heroes. I'm sure they're going to be able to really take advantage of a lot of those like big brand new reworks that we got.
Yeah, and the fact that, I come from League of Legends, I'm no stranger to massive patch notes. I'm no stranger to taking 2.5 hours, 3 hours to go through a patch note reading. I will say I am loving the level of Deadlock commitment to trying to balance the game out, bring a little fresh take, update old heroes to fit newer formats as well. I think that's something that's very difficult to do, and them doing it early showcases that even your favorite heroes will get adjustments, and you are forced to optimize and adjust, whether that means dropping the hero in a meta competitive format or bringing it up. One of the big things is there are minor tunes to a lot of the abilities, but also gun damage output. A lot of the items got tuned specifically, and a lot of people had to lab out these things, and I gotta agree with you. For a team that has had to reschedule a few times, if we're looking in there, for the side of, I believe it was TAMU that still, I think it was TAMU that still had to get a couple matches in. If you haven't actively practiced and you're still running on your pre-patch compositions, there's a very high chance you will just kind of kneecap yourself in a very big way. So I 100% agree with you. If we're watching TAMU and they haven't been labbing out, they haven't been hitting the practice, and they haven't been scrimming, then I would be very worried for how their performance here tonight will be affected. Granted, I also assume they've been practicing. I mean, they're the Maroon squad. They have a whole other TAMU squad to play against. Assume they have been practicing as well and prepping for these matchups.
Yeah, there's really a lot going into this. When we look at, if you've been paying attention to the night shifts recently, it feels like the hierarchy has almost been flipped on its head. Although there are still some people that come through almost like nothing happened, right? We have the great return of Kelvin, for example. Kelvin fell off for a week or two before Valve saw their baby and brought
I
him
was about
back
to
up.
say,
You
I
have
don't know what you're talking about falling off when it was like a very, very
yeah,
like
yeah,
gentle bunny, bunny divot or whatever.
yeah. There's Kelvin there, and then we also have, Paige and Rem sort of took a little bit more of a backseat recently. We saw Mo and Krill, shoot to the atmosphere, and now they've sort of come down a little bit, although we have seen them making just a massive impact. Wraith, obviously, with her rework, we still have a lot of our classic M1 carries that you're going to be able to see all week round. So lots of interesting ones, and I'm being told that the draft is ready to go underway. When we're looking at draft priority, the formula has sort of changed quite a bit. Before the patch, it was a lot of frontliners. You will want to lock in your Silver, Abrams, Billies. But now, that emphasis on frontline has sort of been taken away a little bit. It sort of opens the door to see what you want to trade. We have U of T. They choose to ban out the Wraith, and Texas with the Calico.
Yeah, just like you said, it's a little bit more of a trade out. You're trading out the DPS or the primary DPS sources in there, the M1 carries as you love to call it, which I highly appreciate that term. It's understandable. Gun damage is a huge part of the game, obviously, and they've tuned it to be a lot more impactful while negating a lot of the safeguards that used to be in there. It becomes a little bit more of a gamble. So Calico, you can reap a lot of those benefits if given the right opportunity. I know some people were talking about Mina obviously coming up in that same sort, but immediately knocked around a little bit inside of that, inside of the recent post-deadlock patch system. It's been still up and down in what they want to do, but there's that Mo and Krill that you mentioned for University of Toronto. Immediately grabbing that one, you secure a little bit more frontline access, and whenever I see a team lock in any sort of frontline, I always assume it's like a double DPS to come out on the other side, generally just to try and give and take. It leads to very imbalanced compositions, but at the same time, very fun compositions overall.
Yeah, Mo and Krill is definitely a character after the patch. So one of the major things that happened to this character to bring them to the place that they are is they reworked a lot of the AP order or the upgrades on the ultimate, giving it a bunch of extra damage, bunch of duration, bunch of lifesteal, most importantly. So Mo and Krill is a menace to try and duel, especially if they're able to catch you out one-on-one. And then we have Texas A&M. They're locking in Venator. Venator is a character that has evolved so much since they were first brought in. Initially, they were being built full gun damage. We're going to shoot you. We're going to rely a lot on that crossbow ultimate. But more so recently, melee Venator has really taken that spotlight, especially with max gunshot first. You're able to get that blessed true damage melee, and it will absolutely shred you no matter what you build against it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen stories of watching just Venators rip through everyone in that same instance, and when you pair it with a Victor, the sustainability and the routes that you have mid to late game of just team fights will occur, whether you like it or not, whether you're trying to force a solo gank or anything like that. There will be time for TMU Maroon to rotate to get to that team fight and create a little bit more impact in there, especially with the likes of getting caught out by a Mo and Krill, very specifically Victor having that revive passive or ultimate, very, very powerful and kind of negating any sort of catch potential. It limits the options for a Mo and Krill. And so right now, with that double kind of build up in the front line, I want to see a little bit more frontline access as well. University of Toronto now going for the chain gang style with the Billy. Makes sense. Again, with the Mo and Krill, it can lead to very destructive front end engagement. Now, we have seen Billies actually wane a little bit by going a little bit too hard. It's usually supplemented by the Page, so if we don't see the Page, I am worried what they're going to pair with the Billy, especially in lane and when it comes to engage, because Mo and Krill is nice. It doesn't give the same sustain that a Page would at the end of the day.
Yeah, while he is able to take a lot of abuse, there is still, a lot left to be desired. Ultimately, though, it is a pretty decent back and forth if you're looking at both of these teams. I wouldn't say one of them is necessarily losing out too much, although having that Victor, having that insurance towards the late game is going to be nice for Texas A&M. University of Toronto are a-okay with taking this trade, and that also means we likely won't see a Billy, or not Billy, sorry, an Abrams. And Abrams has been everywhere. Now you could still, and you could really rely on a lot of that brawly front line, but that does open the door to it. Now University of Toronto, they're locking in the Sinclair. They have an amazing Sinclair player on the roster, and especially, I mean, when you give them, you know, 2 great ultimates to play with right off the bat, and definitely more to come, given who's meta, that is very scary to look out for.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to get into the world of, hey, I'm going to get kind of sleeped out. I'm going to have some issues following up behind. And being able to grab some of those other abilities with the Sinclair is brutal in there. You get basically this variety pack, this jack-in-the-box that will surprise you every turn. Texas A&M,
Yeah.
I am looking at them as the Maroon squad. I want a little bit of damage out here. Before we get the next ban coming in, I want to see see at least 1 DPS come out for them. I don't want to see them be so scared having to draft all this frontline and backline safety before things go south. I want to see them bring, like you said, maybe an Infernus. Maybe if you're going a little bit long range, you get really silly with a Vindicta or a Mina. You could try and play that angle, but I need DPS here because U of T, I'm at least going to play on my own head and on my own thoughts. They're going to go for a secondary DPS ban. They're just going to go, hey, if you're not going to pick one up now, we'll just roll you out one more. And McGinnis can bring damage. I know Soren is going to be so happy about that, but I'm not cool to McGinnis. Oh, and the reason that we're wondering is because it looks like it was actually a Viscus locked in, not the Victor in there. I want to get confirmation on that, but that did change.
Yeah, so I am hearing from production that it was a Viscus, not a Victor, and that does change quite a bit about how this draft is playing out. So Texas A&M locking the Viscus. Viscus is a very powerful utility character. You build them for the spirit. You build them into that hybrid sort of playstyle. You can definitely get a lot of mileage out of him, and it's really good, strong flex pick to get early on in the drafting phase. When it comes to McGinnis, though, so there is this little underground McGinnis strategy where the ultimate that was buffed in the recent update goes absolutely bazonkers. It does so much damage. It movement slows you. It will, you know, toss you around, and especially, and I've heard that it's, you know, almost overtuned enough where if you go unstoppable rush, you can still get a lot of value out of the character as like a spirit damage nuker in team fights.
I will leave it to the players to prove to me that McGinnis can do that. I've also heard some nasty doorman tech recently with being able to float multiple characters in through your door very carefully. So if we're throwing out some sort of underground tech, we'll have to see it on screen. But I do agree that if you're gonna run the McGinnis, it better be good. And I will sit there, and if you're picking it now, I hope that that's gonna work. Now we're getting a lot of that utility taken away. But on the other side, it's an immediate silver hair ban. The Ivy, though, Texas A&M Maroons saying want to deal with you kind of dropping in the air support following through. So I can agree with that one.
Yeah, Johnny from U of T is a very big Ivy player, very big Ivy fan, has played it very much since the recent update, so I can definitely see why they would take that off the board. When it comes to Silver, previously she was, you know, first pick, first ban. Now we sort of find her, you know, trailing behind and falling back in that pick priority. U of T are making a good decision here to ban it out. Not only can Sinclair not take as much advantage of it due to his kits not scaling with bullet damage, but also Silver is going to provide a lot of that DPS and, you know, pick potential that Texas A&M really need to lock down their squad.
Yeah, but because that Silver's now banned away, it is leaning more into that factor that I talked about, this more DPS-focused ban system. Texas A&M almost feel forced into gathering a bunch of these safe lock pieces. Now, obviously, Venator in that first pick position has a damage, do not get me wrong, but I like to see a bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more punch in my opening draft, and I feel like there are so many utility pieces that you can pick afterwards. Coming back, the baby of Deadlock, pretty much. Always going to be viable, always going to have a nice little foundation to work with. It is a grab up of a lot of the utility. You are banking on Texas A&M being able to elevate this Venator and McGinnis to a higher standard. You're also assuming University of Toronto will always engage on you in a larger facet. So I never like hinging on the opponent should do this, so we can do this. I always like watching teams be able to bring a fight to the opponent in a way that says, I am going to do this, so you respond this way.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot riding on here, and like I said, I mean Texas A&M, they're locking in the counters before they lock in their primary damage dealers, and you know U of T they were going to whip out the pocket. I was just about to comment on that before it was done, but this is such a good pocket game. You have so many sources of healing on your enemy team, and you know with the recent changes, pocket now has a 100% anti-heal on the ults, and the only thing in the game that is currently capable ultimate based debuffs is Divine Blessing or Divine Barrier, one of the two. So you either do that or you grab Counter Spell and you rely on the skill check of being able to parry during a team fight when you hear the little frog sounds coming up for Pocket's briefcase.
You gotta listen for the plague to roll on through. Apparently, that's a horrendous thought in there. Just wait for the frogs to croak, and then hey, you're good to go. University of Toronto, though, I'm really liking their build out here. Again, and there's a very nice Warden. Go ahead and bring that to your own. Now, all of a sudden, that Sinclair is going to have so much more freedom to play with the eyes being drawn to the pocket and the Warden in there. And you just got to round it out with, I think, a very sharp edge at the very end. You have enough DPS for University of Toronto. You have a lot of good catch potential, and you're looking at Texas A&M. You're never really going to have to worry about them jumping on you as cleanly with the DPS. You're more looking at them, how well can they scatter and absorb your blows. I love this Shiv pick, though, for Texas A&M Maroon. The bleed is so powerful. If you're in a situation where you have to stall out a little bit longer, it can still work. You can pair well with the Venador, who is looking to kind of lay those final blows in there, bleed them dry, get the final blows, and you're good to go. So Texas A&M starting to give me a lot more hope for the composition than I had prior.
Yeah, but on the flip side as well, it really feels like you're stuck in this hell of your own making, where now that you've committed so hard to this idea of regeneration, that you're, spamming your frontliners, now you have to almost pick a Shiv in here. You also lock in the Yamato, who's a really strong Spirit Bruiser, and now you have this team that, you committed to very early on that's still very vulnerable to all of the themes that University of Toronto have going in.
Yeah, it's a little bit danger in there. Last round. There's a page that I mentioned before. This now elevates the ability to a little bit higher status in terms of what they can get away with in terms of engage. Normally, I think we see the Billy and the Page rock out in the same lane, and it becomes just indomitable. The Page being able to throw down a lot of those usages, priming the lane for the Billy to kind of roll on through. I like what University of Toronto have currently built for themselves. I also like what you said. TMU Maroon, they kind of just patch it together at the very end. That pocket, I think threw them for a little bit of a loop. I will say, though, they have very fun pop-off heroes. If a Venador pops off, it's terrifying. You walk around, you get one-shot pumped, and you're just like, dude, not cool. You look at the Shiv, you get chased down by Shiv, it's not cool. It snowballs out of control. And if what you're saying about the McGinnis is correct, Soren will be pop and happy in his chair. I mean, we can have the chaos of the McGinnis wrecking shop down either lane that they choose.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential going into this. One big thing that I will point out is that University of Toronto, they're lacking a lot of that late game insurance. They do have a very strong composition, especially I do want to point out one of the weaknesses of Warden is he really spikes during that mid-game transition. But when you start to reach that super late game and you have the economy to start buying some of those counter items, you're able to get your plated armors, you're able to maybe buy a disarming hex or two, the character really becomes a lot less scary. So Texas A&M, it's a really long, slow burn from here. Meanwhile, University of Toronto, I'm really expecting them to come out of the gate swinging. They've always, historically had a very strong early game team. It just relies on who's able to execute this in the early game faster, and then the mid late game will have to depend on that.
Yep. I mean, I think for University of Toronto, they'll always start off very strong, and I hope to see even more of it because, again, this is your presentation towards the playoffs. A lot of teams are going to be looking at this and also hoping to glean some information of how do we want to pick you apart? How are we going to take you down moving further in for those future matches? Well, at the current moment, we'll have to wait and see. We are on to the Big Apple. Time to duke it out in the streets. Left lane will be held with 2. Mid lane will be held with 2, of course, as well. With the Sinclair and Warden paired up together. Mixing and matching here on the big railroad, looking to try and pin this McGinnis a little bit further back, and it's paired up with the Mo and Krill, a combination that provides a lot of stalwart safety and kind of focus fire DPS. The Mo and Krill can catch them.
Yeah, there's definitely a really good matchup in all of these lanes. It's very evenly distributed. I mean, particularly I want to call out, the Viscous and Venator are a really strong combo. We got Pockets and Mo and Krill, namely, are just really good at absorbing a lot of that pressure. And we also have a Burger Box lane on the left side where you got a Kelvin Shiv in and bumping their heads into a Billy Page. There's going to be a lot of fighting there, I know for sure.
Liking the shots so far as well. Very quick snaps overall, and just trying to farm that up as much as possible. University of Toronto, though, getting a little bit gun check there for Dreamlion. Damage, same with mid, who are both sitting well under 50%. Now, it's not too difficult to stay in the lane, but it can be dangerous if you play it a little bit too close to the vest. You see that dance out right now as we are watching Misclick do their best, holding the opponent off. 110 on the HP bar, though. Dreamline playing this one way too close. Don't think you like where you're at. Bleeding close to 20 HP. You are just playing in and out of the fire.
Yeah, that is some generational levels agreed there. You're sitting there with such low HP. You buy a Mystic Burst first, and then your Pocket takes the downfall for it, and now you have this Mo and Krill out in the open. Uses the healing ability, but it's not quite able to get more than just 50 health. Now it's going to be pressure under the tower. Viscous parries it. He's going to get a nice quick melee there. And it's going to be an early double kill for Texas A&M.
And I mean, that one's kind of expected, right? You can't be floating with like 50 HP for so long and not expect someone to try and tower dive you. Like, yeah. you really can't do that. It's getting a little bit ballsy. It's getting a little bit cheeky with it. At the same time, you don't lose too much. One kill in the laning phase is not the end all be all. It's when you start giving 2 or 3 that you have to be a little bit worried about the souls count heading into your opponent's hands. We go over and glance at this Yamato for Texas A&M University Maroon. It'll be Gigabyte handling that hero, and you mentioned this kind of mid-range, mid-game bruiser to come out with the spirit damage. Yamato can carry pretty dang well if given the right opportunity. We'll have to keep up on that farm count for them later.
Styler went for a really greedy box route up in the opponent's jungle and was spotted out by the Viscous, so I was going to get chased around. Not going to be quite as efficient, and also gives the opportunity there for Gigabyte and Encore to really do a lot of damage to this blue lane tower. Now the Viscous is just continuing to fight deeper and deeper into this jungle. It's an interesting decision to make, right? Because you're winning the lane off of the early game. You're able to give yourself a little bit of a soul lead, but then you're going to lead to, instead of start to snowball your lane, go out and really chase down some of those stragglers from mid.
Yeah, give yourself a little bit more time to find those extra kills on the back end. But so far after that first kill, it's been relatively quiet. Everyone's kind of dancing, but no one's dropping each other lower than about 20% off the HP bar, I would say. Especially not with the big ticket ultimates up just yet. It's signature abilities out and about. There's the Arctic Beam to try and frost someone off and slow down their movements. Not much really handled though, because right now a lot of these creeps are just flooding in and dealing damage to those Guardians. The Guardian damage will start to rack up over a few minutes.
Yeah, plenty of early game abuse both these teams are able to handle, especially since I'm betting you that both of these supports are going to be locking in that egg. I already saw it from the Kelvin. Reducing their own damage at the cost, or for the trade-off of being able to get yourself some juicy buffs later on. Now, we have a little bit of a contestation here. Texas A&M are going to fight here over the gun buff, or sorry, that's casting buff for the Yamato. Very, very strong for her. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, I didn't quite catch it, but I think it was the Pocket. Big Fat B was able to pick up that buff.
Yep, it's It's a nice little pickup on the buff count, and you head on back to your lane and go, cool, that's stage 1. We're gonna have stage like 17 down the row in terms of picking up some extra charge handled by the McGinnis, getting a little bit extra on that spirit with the damage output. Another K for the right side as well, as the Benedor is getting a little bit of help from his macro Jesus. Gonna be running that one. Iradomini bringing out those major stakes. Trying to swing for the extra damage if they can. Only marks 1 though, not much else. However, in the same breath, TMU Maroon able to mark Johnny, who goes down on the far end. Feels a little bit bad for them.
Yeah, just that ramping up of the damage there from Texas A&M. You're not quite able to handle it. The Page doesn't have a cleanse in her kit. So once those Shiv knives start racking up, they're able to deal 200, 300 damage to you just through bleed alone. Was what led into her early demise. However, here we see on the middle lane, we have the McGinnis caught off guard, and wow, those bolts are able to do a lot of damage early.
Yep, there's a spike that we were waiting for. It took them a little bit of time, but able to knock down 1, and not only that, create a little bit more space after that kill. They immediately pressured up for some damage. It's down to about 50%, and that's what you want to see. So for the University of Toronto, you're still up about 2-3k in the souls. Should hopefully balloon a little bit further on when you play a little bit harder as well. Far end, we're seeing some dangerous numbers come out, but the extra health, extra bonuses, extra damage all around bring you to favor. Bucket though running for their life as Dream Lion gets caught out in the middle. Viscous going into the cube as quickly as possible. This dance and fight from University of Toronto might have to be healed on the right side of the macro. Jesus doesn't want to follow through on that one.
Yeah, there's a denial that Viscous is so good at, being able to cube their teammate in the middle of a combo. Really deny the opportunity there for an early kill. But yeah, now that we're, zooming on over to the middle lane, what almost turned very, very sour for McGinnis is able to be retreated from without too much consequence. I will say there is a little bit of counter synergy between the Sinclair and the Warden, given that if you turn someone funny, they do move a little bit faster, but that doesn't seem to be a problem for this coordinated duo just yet.
No, not at all. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out as we get a little bit of the airwalk ice being brought out to make a pathway for that Kelvin. They're going to try and chase on up, but Gigabyte is able to take out one of the Guardians. We'll lose a teammate in response, though, as Encore goes down. Macro Jesus also in that same position of possibly dying, but Dream Lion makes that possibility a reality. 2 marks down, looking down against them. Toronto, though, very focused on punishing the opponents for their over-aggression for the Guardian.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shaky start there, but they're able to find their footing, and now with the Sinner Sacrifices spawned in, we already see that Dreamline is able to steal away just 1 from their opponent's side, and the next move, of course, is to start to worry about denying the enemy from stealing yours. Right, we have the doubles that are coming up. We have there's no rum on the board, so there's not going to be too strong of an opportunity to deny your opponents. So both of these teams, after they're going to take their Guardians, are going to kite their way backwards.
And for TMU Maroon, it's a lot cleaner takes on those as well. Clearing 1 in the mid, looking to get a little bit more on the right side. It's only the left side Guardian that they're still taking time getting. Marks for University of Toronto, though, as they've been trying to push that right and left side lane. It's hard. They just kind of been focused on getting the kills, and whenever they get the kills, they lose out on the HP department. They have to back away, and they have to start the whole cycle over once more. 9.5 minutes in, as watch this McGinnis get a catch onto Sinclair. Looks like Styler might have stepped out a little bit too far for their own liking, and the chase down gives Pissed a kill for themselves. Very nicely done by the side of TMU Maroon.
That is an incredibly big bag too. 660 souls straight out of Styler's pocket. That's definitely not something you want to see. Although we do still have, Misclick being the primary for this team, still has a lot of souls in it. Right now, the next big play is going to be happening here onto this left side lane. We see an overstack from U of T. It's going to be 3 members, not quite able to get any clean so far. Although the skirmish is just starting.
I think with skirmishes As you said, just starting here, it's going to be a whole dance over this urn. Quick pickup by the Moat and Krill, but they say no dice on that one. We're going right into the Ice Dome. Everyone's brought in. The Shadow transformation being used by Gigabyte. Will it bring the damage around? Texas A&M are saying yes, it will. Quick punch and blow will hold University of Toronto in place, but the turnaround is massive here as Johnolly loses their life. Dream Lion comes out with a bit more than just CC. Johnny will pick up the urn once more as Big Fat B marks one more as Macro Jesus goes down. The blades will fly, but not enough damage as University of Toronto will get just about everything in that battle while only losing one member.
Oh, that was an incredibly scrappy fight there. I wasn't aware that was going to go at any stage of points, but you know, there's U of T's team fight composition, right? They had the pocket ult, they had the Mo and Krill combo to start locking you down, and now they're able to reap those rewards. The urn was a little bit slow on being run over, so there is going to be an opportunity for the denial. We do see that Texas A&M, they're in full force.
I think that damage will be in more ways than just the force. Encore rolls right through Fractal's arms. Misclicked in that time, is able to take one more Guardian, but is it really going to be enough? Damage abound by Texas A&M is starting to get some in here. Johnny goes down once more as Styler, this Sinclair is starting to make their mark on the stage. With that, another kill going through. The urn dropped on the back end. University of Toronto just looking. Who else wants to jump in the firefight?
Yeah, they're definitely going to want to move fast with this, though, because now that the urn has been out for so long, it's going to start ticking and damaging your own team. It looks like they're going to be taking the initiative here. Yamato getting caught out. The Mo and Krill is 9 seconds away from their combo. It's going to be a massive three-man bunny. Yamato falls first. Now it's going to be a full-blown retreat. Billy hunting down this Viscous. Is he going to be able to finish him off? The parry does go through, and it does catch the Billy off guard. Plague gets taken down on that Kelvin. And it's an absolute disaster in this right lane.
Well, disaster for who? Really? I mean, University of Toronto, that was great. We just watched them completely collapse in on Texas A&M. Texas A&M were not ready for it at all, and they lose so many members. The left side lane was there, of course, but it was held by Macro Jesus, and Macro Jesus is one of the main DPS that needs to be with the team so far. The only one, or secondly, the Encore, who has 11,000 souls to their name on the team. So University of Toronto making quick use of these opponents. You called them out, saying for University of Toronto, their early game tends to be very controlled, very coordinated. We're seeing it here, getting close to about 20k or closer to about 15,000 in their favor. They're really hoping that can increase over time, allowing you to make a march towards that mid-boss.
Yeah, now for the next couple minutes, this is going to be a bit more of a slow burn. Like you said, the mid-boss is coming up, but that won't be for until 15 minutes. And then usually teams at this level will really struggle to take it until 20 minutes, unless there is, you know, another one of those big 5-man team fights around the urn. But, you know, coming up next, right, I'm looking to see some of these big buys coming through from Misclick. Misclick has 3,000 souls in the bank. They're queuing up a tier 4 item already. These are the sorts of purchases you want to see come through from your carries. And when we're looking at Texas A&M, we want to see, you know, this Yamato that's starting to fall behind. We want to see the Shiv start to come back into this game. And I am still waiting to see, you know, Encore really go off with that McGinnis ult.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the full pop yet. Maybe a little bit more in the. I love that setup. Currently only holding 2 out of the 4 abilities there for Encore. You want the ult? We'll get the ult here rolling at some point. University of Toronto, though, very deep spread as they look to take down yet another walker for themselves. They broke open the mid. Right side might be the main test. At least in the mid, I do apologize here. Sinclair having to run away right now, and Styler just doesn't want to sit. Right side currently valued with 3, though. And University of Toronto are constantly applying pressure, whether right, mid, or everywhere is under fire. And Texas A&M University Maroon have to pick a lane.
Yeah, that's clear bolt damage onto the walker. They're basically 2-shotting it. Was crazy. Gonna make a quick escape from that one. And we see the combo here come out onto the Viscous. Pist is just not really going to have a way to get out of this, although they do treat back Dream Lion. I guess they didn't have enough fuel in the tank to finish off that Kelvin, or the Viscous.
Granted, Viscous is going a lot more supportive build right now with that Spirit in there as well, so it makes sense. Try to over-aggress. We mentioned before for Texas A&M University, their composition knows how to soak up damage. It's just, are they given the opportunity to do so? Really nice turnaround where they gave Macro Jesus a chance to knock out Misclick, and just like that, a couple more souls into primary carries.
Yep, now it is a comeback earn for Texas A&M, given that they're more than 10% behind. Shiv here just over-aggressing a little bit too much. They're really trying to get that first Guardian, and we could potentially even see a little bit of bait action, right? We have Texas A&M. They're positioning very aggressively to try and catch this Bone Krill off guard. But we do see the Shiv is able to make it back out to safety.
I think right now we're kind of holding off, waiting for the next big movement. As you can see, the boons are arriving here shortly, and actually have already been claimed 4 minutes on the next spawn. Plus, I think is where everyone's eyes are currently looking. One big fight could really enthrall the opponent, and maybe cause them to overstep, giving the opportunity to the other side. University of Toronto don't want to allow that to happen. They're currently in the lead in terms of the souls, in terms of pressure. If they can keep this up, they can kind of force TMU Maroon into dangerous positioning, take advantage, go to the mid-boss afterwards, or maybe just grab the extra on the out, open up some more spots for themselves.
The, well, the earn pickup to deny is a good idea. We're really starting to see that now that Texas A&M, they're starting to get those comeback souls, they're starting to close that gap. You now have, locked yourselves into having to defend this earn for the next 3 minutes before it is able to reset. Now, U of T, they are going to lose their last remaining Guardian, and they're, forced a little bit more to play that team. They do have a lot of investment going into Misclick, going into Big Fat B, but they're not quite able to, get any significant leads off of that just yet.
No, they'll just slowly try and accrue it up as much as possible. I think they kind of got scared after the fact that Macro Jesus came swinging after a bit, recognizing that Macro Jesus currently has 20k in the bank as well. Here comes a chance, though, as Styler recognizes that maybe they overstepped their joint. They need to go ahead and step back. The assistant will come on out, but, teammates are well underway here, too. They'll back away and eat a lot more damage on that burn, though, down to 873. Not exactly what you want to see happen behind your own walker. It's a good job by Texas A&M to push the Sinclair a little bit further out here. Comes, though, on this 5 currently here to face off against the McGinnis. No dice on the kills just yet, though.
A potential collapse here onto Warden is forced to retreat. And it was a good read from him, honestly. Now, the earn is available for Texas A&M. That's definitely not something you want to let go lightly, but what can you do when you're 1v2 as an M1 carry in that situation?
A little bit of an earn run can fix just about any stagnation in the game. Texas A&M going to pick that one up, try and chase it back to their side of the battlefield. Obviously, this is going to be in their favor. That helps lead a gap. Maybe down to about only 2k difference. A lot of spirit damage obviously built up at University of Toronto. Still waiting for Macro Jesus as they're sat between a little bit of vitality and the gun damage overall. Here comes a big chance, though, as 3 currently corralled around for University of Toronto. Another pinch coming around the right side. There's a big chase for the Shiv. Can be powerful. But are they actually going to get the question? There's a lockdown. Quick punches come out. No parries to threaten. But here's the flip on the other side. This is misclicked. Running for one, but pissed. Dropping Dream Lions like it's hot. It's only one right there. I believe they slowed down what would have been an earn purely. Instead, it is going to be that rush and a half. And for Texas A&M, because they lost one on the right side, they had to go back and clean up the right side lane as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting play there, right? Dreamline taking the fall and Johnny narrowly really escaping death. And we look at the other side of the map as well, not being able to close off Janali. And this is a turn of events that Texas A&M, they've been hoping for. Now, we do have some really big buys here. We have the Warden that was just a little locked in, but it's such low HP, they're not quite able to finish the job. Now they're getting taken down inside of the teleporter. Texas A&M, this is the advantage that they were waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, the sustained battle, the timing of, hey, if you're not going to send everyone at once, we can slowly bleed you out. We have plenty of members that can sit here and sustain. Pistons done it one end with they're just dancing into enemy territory. Final bash to the back of the head will lead to their doom, but not after drawing one away. University of Toronto, though, they're going to try and look for revenge. Quick grab of that urn. They're going to try and rush it over, but already Texas A&M Maroon are ready and waiting.
Yeah, there's that lead that we were talking about before, right? The 20k lead that we're talking about getting potentially into an early mid boss is just starting to evaporate like that. Now, U of T are still undecided on whether or not they're going to be able to pursue this urn to completion. Some of that damage, but the Kelvin is dropped down to just 200 HP. They're going to get finished off with no problem. And there's that duo from Texas A&M getting taken down. It's going to be 3 kills for U of T. They're chasing down a straggler. Can we make it 4?
I mean, I think they absolutely will. It's a solo piece of that table. Gigabyte will fall. Friendly Walker on the far end will go down. That's the least of their concerns. University of Toronto with a beautiful collapse, able to wipe out 4, gather the urn as well. Massive souls increase for themselves. It feels like they've done very, very well to turn things around on its head once more. Texas A&M Maroon, a little bit frustrated that that happened here, and they were a little bit easier time on that push for the Walker.
Yeah, playing your hand a little bit too aggressively, and now U of T, they're able to take that opportunity to really bounce back. And now they're here on this double centers. They're securing their own to make sure that you can't get traded back with. And now we're back in a situation again where mid boss is in question. The urn is not going to be back for another 3 minutes. So both of these teams, they're going to be able to chill down, to farm up, take. We already see some really big counter items coming out too. We had the slowing hex and knockdown come through. But the Moan Krill is able to take a lot of abuse, really able to escape the Yamato there without much problem.
Yep, just kind of walk away here. That'll be a little bit of a silence on the back end, but the fight coming in with the Viscous trying to save a teammate. Texas A&M University say, where's the fight? Let's find a Dream Lion rushing away for the safety. Fractal trying to run away with 240 HP. They will get to the lifeline, and the zipline will carry them on home. Dangerous movements, though, as University of Toronto recognize that they can't be caught out on their own as well. Watching kind of this collection around the left mid battlefields. The entirety of University of Toronto recognize that there were some expenditures, and they're going to free fire a little bit more as Big Fat B is able to mark down Plague, and Plague will no longer be as frosty as they say, melted into a puddle. And now a catch on the McGinnis. Johnny with the knockdown on Encore. The 2-piece that'll also lose Big Fat B. The winning battle has left Texas A&M scrambling for their lives. The bunny has been made. Gigabyte sitting on about 200 HP, pissed, running for his life as well. And University of Toronto will chase Texas A&M to the bitter end to get those souls.
Yeah, really big turn there, and we just saw how fast that U of T were able to collapse onto Kelvin, onto the McGinnis, and then chase things out further. And we did, harp on and on about how much healing, how much sustain Texas A&M had before, but the same is true for U of T. Fractal with that blasted is such a cockroach in the wall, and it's going to be a quick deny here. The Viscous Cube comes through, the U of T are able to secure that mid-boss and, briefly take down the contesting Viscous as well as the ship.
All the Reju beads go their way as well, so things have shifted dramatically over to University of Toronto. And I said it earlier, I said it earlier, Spafflez, when I mentioned it really does feel like both teams are just waiting for that one kind of opportunity to take them to try and end the game. This is that chance, I feel like. Maybe not end the game, but at least break through the base guardians and get to those towers, start breaking through into the Arch Mother, and kind of get that game rolling here on the evening.
Yeah, a bit uncharacteristically almost. Both of the walkers are still, or 2 walkers are still up for both of these teams. So there is going to be quite a bit of roads for these teams to chew through. I wouldn't be surprised if University of Toronto invest the rest of the street getting one or the other, potentially both even, before they start cracking in those base guardians. But now that we're in the situation that we are, right, University of Toronto, they're not quite content yet to group up. They're not ready to take those big fights yet, so losing precious earn time.
I think for this earn rush, maybe just you can see the Viscous off saying maybe I can chase that one, but for University of Toronto, it's all about just getting that Kelvin out of the way. There's the pickup, and I think for Texas A&M, you're like, uh-oh, I didn't want to run this way. I can easily be caught out. There's going to be a look, quick dash forward, slam down, tries to slow him. They are disarmed, but the Walker is still in the way, and he'll try and chase on by. You actually slow things down, but that cube is enough to deny even further. University of Toronto, they tried to set up a cheesy pick, and it doesn't go the way. Texas A&M come out with that earn.
Yeah, we're almost able to catch them out, but now since University of Toronto, they over-rotate onto that right-hand side, they're not really going to have an earn contest here, so long as Texas A&M doesn't take too long to deposit. We even see Stylar there getting a little forced out there by the Shiv. Although we have the Billy Page combo, they're going in deep. They're trying to fight before this gets dropped down.
That big can also be an or their own. University of Toronto try and lay everything down on the table, but Texas A&M were more than ready for it, dropping the McGinnis and so much more on the table, saying we have the ults just as well. Fractal is able to revive with that rejuve feed, but the damage is a whole different story. There's a lockout number one. Dream Lion finds Plague. The rest of Texas A&M trying to run for the hills. After those revives come through, Stylar now on a 3-kill streak on that Sinclair. Great rebuttal, even though Texas A&M, in my opinion, had one of the best answers to the drop-in. University are just that much further ahead.
Yeah, we even had a buy one, get three situation. You got misclicked on the other side of the map. The story of his life, just split pushing and getting those walkers down. While the rest of the team were able to earn, and the other walker, now he's getting collapsed on here by the Viscous, is able to drop him down to quite low HP, but that's sustained from the ultimate. He's changing the world. His rejuve does get popped out eventually. Now he is going to be fighting a 1 versus 3. He's just buying out as much time as possible. The cage doesn't quite lock up the Venator, and now even though he's dropped down to 1 HP, the Toxic Bolts are able to finish him off.
Yeah, but you did buy enough time. Like you said, Spafflez, it was enough time to grab a base Guardian. Now the base is currently broken for Texas A&M University, and you're still fighting with almost a 30k deficit. It's a painful thing to note, but that is the current position that you are in right now. So for University of Toronto, losing one member at the end of that macro trade ain't the worst thing in the world. What you are wondering about is who is going to try and stop you once more if you go in with that engagement, and are you going to win? Are you going to win an individual fight? That, to me, is a big calling card for something like the Warden. We want to see Misclick be able to 1v1.
Yep, and I think it's pretty telling there that Texas A&M, they're not comfortable sending in any of their members really into that 1v1 fight, right? Because that's where their strength is. Their strength as a team fighting comp, they want to out-sustain their enemy, they want to... they're, as a sum of their wholes, much greater than they are apart. Now the Goop Ball comes through there to sort of contend with the Billy. Is going to be an affliction inside of the Kelvin Dome, making sure that everyone gets tagged by the frogs. Piss down to just 1 HP, is able to escape with their lives, and Dream Lion gets caught again. They are going to be able to trade out for that McGinnis, so the ult is no longer a hazard, but it's going to be Stylar's McGinnis ult here that is able to dish out a lot of damage on their opponent.
Yeah, I think right now that was a worthwhile trade because Big Fat B is now chasing and on the hunt. Texas A&M maybe don't like the outcome here. They thought they did, but the resounding deaths have been outside their favor. Thankfully, University of Toronto, I'm so sorry, had to chase out to the left side, clear that battlefield before losing another walker. And it feels like the University of Toronto, if they're able to get a lot of these waves under control and get another team fight, they will wipe out the base, and Texas will be on the losing end of a series.
Yeah, no, even though with the recent patch, they did introduce a lot of incentives for you to not fully take the base. If you're able to push the base and you're only able to get a shrine or 2 shrines, or knock the patron, you're still going to be able to get yourself some niceties, right? Each shrine will it's the equivalent of sort of the super minions from League of Legends. You're going to buff your minions a little bit, so your waves naturally, and you're going to really force your opponents into being on that back foot macro wise for all of these objectives that are coming up. Now, speaking of objectives, we have the mid-boss coming up in 45 seconds. We have UFT already grouping towards the left side of the map. They want to take this buff with no problem, and then potentially rotate over with the urn or, preemptively find a pick.
Looks like the boon so picked up as you said. I do believe that mid-boss will be the next calling card. University of Toronto did use it to kind of break down a fight in the mid, gave them a lot of space to work with. Now they're going to try it one more time. They know who they have to wait for when the piss kind of drop off now. But if they find piss a little bit earlier, that could be a whole different story. Eyes out on this urn run. Texas A&M University don't want to give it over too easily. The Maroon Squad wants to challenge the middle of mid lane.
Yeah, now this urn drop-off, if they choose to invest in it, can go very sideways for both of these teams. You're basically shooting into a fishbowl, given that there's very few ways in or out of this Thunderdome. So a lot of opportunity here for both of these teams. Texas A&M, they're shoving in pretty far, given that their lane has basically pushed up to where University's upper used to be. Like a little bit more plain, and you a bit afraid they're not quite ready to deposit the urn.
No, they're gonna wait a little bit more. Can they bait anyone out? Can they draw a little extra fire? It doesn't look like Texas A&M are actually gonna bite at that just yet. Since they know the urn pocket is much further in their own territory, they don't have to chase further. They don't have to run into the enemy zone. So University of Toronto will just keep playing keep away. They'll keep trying the wings a little bit closer towards the opposite side. Currently in a 1-4-1 position. And Texas A&M saying, okay, if we're going to slow down the game, we're going to slow down the game. Let's hit 200k. Let's get everyone up into that 30k range. Let's get some damage in us, is what they're hoping to say here.
Yeah, no, we do see potentially even a confrontation there as Styler and Dreamline narrowly avoid meeting up with John Elaine Macro Jesus. Now the teams are, further retreating. Johnny fully committing to retreating that urn back to the base and just playing a game of ping pong with it. As, it just continues to be more of a slow burn. We have Fractal clearing out some of these turrets, not allowing the beginners to get too happy, too comfortable here. And we are looking potentially at a confrontation soon.
I think that confrontation is going to happen in ways that neither team will really enjoy. Whenever you have a situation, as you called it, a slow burn, or a situation where both teams become very stagnant, become very static in their movements, it ends up with one player kind of getting caught out or, being in the wrong place at the wrong time because they're just kind of autopiloting. It might happen here as that's going to be a silencing. Do they catch? No. Great counterspell to come out through, but the damage is still massive. Nice rescue beam coming in here, but another drag closer to the battle zone as that poor Shiv is getting yanked every which way. The question is there a teammate to help them out? That's the team for Texas A&M Maroon. Hold within the way. And at the end of the day, it is John Ollie who is going to save for the moment, but the Kelvin Dome dropped in one of the more worthwhile spaces. But worthwhile for who is a big question. University of Toronto are going to use that time to try and get some kills, but it's not in their favor. Gigabyte goes down, but not before taking 2 against Big Fat B and Dream Lion. That's the pocket and the Moen Curl down. That's enough for Texas A&M to kind of push their way towards that mid, maybe get some more reactionary kills for themselves. Brad says it ain't going to be that easy. We still have a lot of the punch. We still have that ability to close you out. And you better be well aware of it. Corner held because of a simple stun. And that is just Misclicked, who is now completely online.
Yeah, it was a really, really shaky fight to start with. Dreamline got caught out in that Kelvin Dome. Really struggled there, and even though Big Fat B hit a 3-man affliction, U of T had a lot of health to chew through just to continue to get the trades that they did. They did ultimately end up going positive. They got a trade 3 for 2, and now it is the Rejuve getting claimed. Now the poor Viscus got stunned, got knocked into place, and now is going to be eventually saved by the rescue beam. Although, given that he is a ball, he did fall down a little bit down the stairs on the way. Gets taken down really, really late. That's 70 seconds on your respawn timer when the enemy team has 3 rejuves. That's not what you want to see.
Absolutely not. I fully expect University of Toronto to look to break into the base here a little bit further, start looking at those shrines, start looking at that chance of closing out this game. This Urn run really doesn't feel like it's necessary at this point, but you might as well, I think, if you can. They are going to give it over to the Billy to run here. A little bit of a slide, a little bit of a dip, dash, and dodge. Outside of Pissed, everyone on Texas A&M is here to contest.
Yeah, I think given that how much the game was stagnating earlier, it does definitely make sense for U of T to walk in here with this Urn. They are going to be met by Texas A&M in full force, or near that, given that they don't have the Viscous. Though the McGinnis Well is going to do little, but force themselves to path a little bit around it. Dreamline here getting separated a bit from the squad. Thankfully, does not get turned on. That was going to be a full-blown fight on the right-hand side.
We say full-blown fight, but it's all about knocking down those extra base guardians, just trying to make them a little bit weaker at the end of the day. They'll be able to clap a 1. At least, there it is. Sinclair with slowly away. 1 will go down. Oh no, it didn't heal up just in time, so they're holding off just for a moment here. Without some of those creeps, it takes a lot longer than you would really like. Finally, it goes down. Styler's able to rotate back with the rest of the squad. But these Rejuves, I mean Spafflez, they're just waiting. They're ticking down. We're waiting for them to be used here.
Yep. I mean, you got 2 minutes, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So I'm definitely expecting to see these teams come back and continue to fight using them. I do understand having a lot of cash in your back pocket, right? You win 2 team fights in a row, you're going to want to spend it, right? So now we have, the builds from University of Toronto pretty much fully coming online. Notably, their Misclick 60,000 souls has multiple tier 4 items. Texas A&M, they're starting to build some of those counter items. They're getting the inhibitors online. The lightning scroll there from the McGinnis is another one of those infinity stones that can enable her builds. And there's just still so much left in the tank here for UFT.
Of course, what's not left in the Texas A&M's HP bar there. Poor Venador will get locked away by a misclick. You found a rabbit hopping. With that DPS gone, you can now push on this flank. It might not have the full push that you need, but it's enough to kind of bully everyone away. Misclick will sack life for the Rejuve to get everyone else in position. Janali very low, and bye-bye, they are gone. 80 seconds on that timer. Hiss will be the next, but they are able to retreat towards their base. One more friendly base guardian gone on the side of Texas A&M. University of Toronto. It's been a while, almost 35 minutes, but they're finally breaking in to the Sapphire Shrines, taking down those structures. We're seeing a little bit quicker reach if the Archmother loses that first HP bar. But University of Toronto feel like there is nothing that can stop them right now. Blade comes out here. It will be a last-ditch effort. Gigabyte trying to swing for the fences, but it's just to clear some of the minions and some of the creeps. They're just trying to hold themselves steady, but inside their own spawn, inside their own base, and it's University of Toronto. Sir, out comes the Kelvin Dome, slows everyone's pacing out even further. The Frost nipping at the heels, but Fractal was ready with the shot number 1. Archmother will be locked down here as it loses about 50% of that second bar. Rest of Texas A&M are going to fight on top of it. It's another Ice Dome being used, but Styler sold that one away. Styler marks out poor Plague, and down goes Gigabytes as well. Encore slow to follow. Texas A&M. The composition did not work. The stall did not work, and University of Toronto take game 1.
All right, good close out there from U of T. Those are the leads and advantages you see just snowballing further in throughout the match. And, I think that's just pretty much what we expected from early on, right? You see this team, they develop a 10, 20k soul lead in the early game, and even though A&M were able to close that gap, U of T, they still had the keys to the kingdom. They knew the steps to success, and they were able to, continue to build it back up from there. Now we see their GP. I mean, if your eyes were on the screen there, I think that's absolutely obvious. The amount of damage to both the team as well as the objectives that he was able to do was incredible. And then, honorable shoutouts, of course, to Misclicked, the M1 carry, and we also have Encore there on the McGinnis. I think it was a good proof of concept.
It was, but proof of concept is not what you want to bring to the table when you're playing for your standings, lives, being able to play for that upper seed bracket. It's one to kind of behold here. You can take a look. Misclicked, earning a majority share of those accolades on the University of Toronto side. It's just Sinclair can bring a little bit more to the table in terms of burstability, in terms of that sustained DPS on the players. Well done overall here. For Texas A&M though, what do you want to see them change, Spafflez? I mean, we saw the McGinnis, we saw the Kelvin, we saw the Yamato. All of these can be very powerful in their own way, but do you want to see specifically change, or do you think it's more just watching them play? They need to kind of go back to the drawing board.
I think ultimately what I want to see is I want to see more traditional damage dealers. I want to see them really come out swinging. Like the McGinnis, it was a proof of concept, but there are still a lot of limitations, especially when you have people running you down, when they're running straight at your face. The Venator, also a really good idea in theory, but the way that it was executed upon didn't quite work out, and especially when you're running a really greedy build like that, when you're running with Glass Cannon as your really only form of fire rate. Actually, no, they did actually pick up a burst fire as well, but when you're running Glass Cannon, you really need to snowball your leads. You need to get kills, you need to stay alive. And I think in the situation that you're in, if you're Texas A&M that match, you really can't be making a purchase like that. Now, as we're getting ready to reset, we're going to go into that next matchup. There is definitely some room for improvement, although I do think that they can still continue to play their style. I don't think it's inherently flawed.
All right, well, good thoughts there. We'll go ahead and head to that short break like you were mentioning. When we come back, game number 2, the final game of the evening here between Texas A&M Maroon as well as U of T. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.